Let's talk about something that's been shaking up the world of health and wellness. The largest intermittent fasting study ever conducted. This wasn't a small sample of volunteers skipping breakfast for a few weeks. No, this was a global look into how humans eat, rest and heal, and what happens when we finally stop treating our bodies like machines that run 24/7s. The results were both surprising and affirming. And they're rewriting what we thought we knew about food, metabolism, and longevity. First, here's the truth that changed everything. Intermittent fasting isn't just about not eating. It's about when we eat and how that timing shapes our biology. This study found that when people confine their meals to an 8 to 10 hour window during the day, their bodies began to function like they were meant to. Insulin levels stabilized, inflammation markers dropped, and energy patterns evened out. It's as if our cells finally got the message. It's okay to rest now. That's not deprivation, that's restoration. It's the difference between starving yourself and sinking yourself. Now, let's be honest. For years, we've been told that discipline means eating less, counting more, and fighting hunger as a sign of strength. But this study flipped that idea on its head. It showed that metabolic health isn't about restriction. It's about rhythm. Our ancestors didn't have constant access to snacks, drive-thrus, or midnight fridges. They ate with the sun and rested with the stars. Their bodies evolved with cycles of nourishment and renewal. Intermittent fasting, at its best, is just us returning home to that natural flow. The participants in this massive study weren't superhumans, they were people like us. Parents, workers, students, individuals juggling life and trying to feel better in their own skin. And yet, by simply aligning their eating windows, they saw meaningful changes in blood sugar, weight, and mental clarity. But perhaps the most profound transformation wasn't physical. It was emotional. They reported feeling in control. Not of their food, but of their choices. That's the real breakthrough here. Because when science gives us tools that empower rather than punish, we become more than just healthier, we become freer. There's something deeply human about learning that our bodies have been whispering the answers all along. When we give them a chance to rest, when we stop feeding out of boredom or stress, they reward us with focus, energy, and renewal. This study didn't just prove that fasting works. It proved that the human body is adaptable, forgiving, and wise beyond measure. And it reminded us that healing doesn't always require adding more. Sometimes it begins with doing less. So what do we do with this knowledge? We start small. We listen. We pay attention to our hunger cues, to the rhythms of our days. We honor the space between meals, the silence between bites, because science has now confirmed what intuition has whispered for centuries. Our bodies are not broken, they're just waiting for us to stop interrupting their brilliance, and that's the greatest lesson this global study has given us. Intermittent fasting is not a diet, it's a dialogue. It's a conversation between you and the incredible biology that carries you through life. It's not about skipping meals. It's about reclaiming your timing, your energy, and your balance. So today, as you step into your next meal or your next moment without one, remember, you are participating in one of the oldest and most natural rhythms of life. The science finally agrees. Your body already knows the way. When we think of intermittent fasting, the first thing that comes to mind for most people is not eating. That idea alone can sound daunting, uncomfortable, and, to be honest, a little miserable. But the truth revealed by the world's largest intermittent fasting study shattered that misconception entirely. It turns out, intermittent fasting isn't truly about deprivation, it's about rhythm, consistency, and the remarkable biological harmony that happens when we align our eating patterns with the natural cycles of our bodies. This global study gathered data from thousands of participants across various lifestyles, cultures, and age groups. It analyzed not just how much people ate, but when they ate, and the differences were astonishing. People who ate within a specific time window each day, typically around 8 to 10 hours, experienced significant improvements in their metabolic health compared to those who ate at irregular or extended intervals. That means even if the total calories stayed roughly the same, the timing made all the difference. Imagine that two people eating the same foods in the same quantities, but one spaces their meals between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., while the other grazes from morning until midnight. The study found that the first person's body was more efficient, more balanced, and far more capable of managing glucose, insulin, and fat metabolism. It wasn't about what was eaten, it was about when the body was given time to process, reset, and rest. Our bodies have a built-in circadian rhythm, a biological clock that regulates everything from sleep to hormone production to digestion. When we eat late at night or constantly snack throughout the day, we're essentially working against that clock. This study found that fasting works because it restores synchronization between our internal systems. The pancreas, liver, gut, and even our brain follow specific daily cycles. When eating is confined to daylight hours, when the body is naturally most active and metabolically ready, those systems hum together in perfect coordination. But when food intake stretches into the night, it throws the entire rhythm off balance. Over time, that misalignment contributes to fatigue, weight gain, insulin resistance, and inflammation. What's truly empowering about this discovery is that it shifts the focus from eating less to eating smarter. The study proved that it's not about starvation, it's about structure. Participants who stuck to regular eating windows weren't starving themselves. They were training their bodies to thrive within a rhythm. After an initial adjustment period, most participants reported not feeling hungry outside their eating windows. Their energy became more stable, their focus improved, and many even described a feeling of lightness, not in the sense of losing weight, but of being free from constant cravings. Consistency too played a crucial role. It wasn't enough to fast a few days a week and return to irregular patterns afterward. The greatest health benefits came from those who made time-restricted eating a consistent part of their routine. This consistency allowed their metabolism to adapt, leading to sustainable, long-term improvements in blood sugar control, lipid profiles, and even cellular repair processes. The researchers noted something else fascinating. Intermittent fasting appeared to activate autophagy, the body's process of cleaning out damaged cells and regenerating new ones. When you give your digestive system time to rest, your body redirects energy toward repair and renewal. That's not starvation, that's healing at a cellular level. It's the body's natural maintenance mode, one that's been there all along, waiting for us to stop overloading it. In essence, this study redefined what health discipline looks like. It's not about punishment or restriction. It's about cooperation with our biology. It's about understanding that our bodies aren't designed to be constantly fed or constantly deprived. They're designed to move in waves, to breathe, to rest, and to renew. When you approach fasting as rhythm rather than restriction, everything changes. It becomes less about controlling food and more about aligning with yourself. And that's the heart of what this landmark study taught us. The body doesn't need extreme diets or endless willpower to be healthy. It simply needs consistency, patience, and a rhythm it can trust. This is the future of health, one that respects both science and intuition. Because when we honor the natural timing of our bodies, we don't just eat better, we live better. The second major revelation from the world's largest intermittent fasting study is one that transcends diet culture entirely. Fasting isn't about restriction or denial. It's about giving your body the gift of structured rest. When we fast, we aren't punishing our systems. We're allowing them to heal, reset, and operate at their most intelligent capacity. And the science behind this is both fascinating and deeply inspiring. Metabolic health, the way your body processes energy, manages blood sugar, and maintains balance, is at the core of every major aspect of your well-being. The study found that intermittent fasting profoundly improves metabolic flexibility, your body's ability to switch between burning carbohydrates and fats for energy. In a world where most of us are constantly eating, snacking, and consuming sugar-laden foods, our bodies rarely get the chance to tap into stored fat as fuel. But when fasting creates intentional gaps between meals, the body begins to use fat stores efficiently, stabilizing insulin levels and improving overall metabolic performance. What's even more compelling is how quickly these changes can take effect. Participants who adhered to consistent fasting windows experienced improved insulin sensitivity within weeks. Their fasting glucose levels dropped, and inflammation markers, like C-reactive protein, began to decline. The body, when given structured downtime, doesn't just rest. It repairs. It begins to clean up cellular waste, recycle damaged proteins, and activate processes that promote longevity. This is where the concept of autophagy takes center stage again, a self-cleaning mechanism that functions best when the body isn't constantly digesting food. Think of it as your body's built-in renewal system, one that clears out the old to make room for the new. Inflammation, the silent contributor to almost every chronic disease, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, even certain cancers, is profoundly influenced by how and when we eat. The study found that fasting periods reduce oxidative stress and inflammatory responses throughout the body. When your digestive system isn't busy breaking down food around the clock, energy is redirected toward immune regulation and tissue repair. The body finally has the bandwidth to do what it was designed to do: maintain balance and protect itself. But here's the most inspiring part. Fasting doesn't just improve physical health, it revitalizes mental and emotional well-being. Many participants reported clearer thinking, better focus, and an elevated mood. Neurological research supports this, showing that fasting boosts the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a protein that supports learning, memory, and overall brain health. It's no coincidence that people practicing structured fasting often describe feeling more alert, calm, and emotionally centered. Their bodies are no longer burdened by constant digestion, and their minds reflect that newfound clarity. Longevity is another area where the study's findings are groundbreaking. Consistent fasting was associated with increased activation of sirtuins, proteins that regulate cellular health, DNA repair and aging. In animal models and early human trials, this kind of metabolic rhythm has been linked to longer lifespans and reduced risk of age-related disease. Simply put, fasting gives your cells a longer, healthier life, and in doing so, extends yours. Now, let's pause for a second and appreciate how extraordinary this is. For decades, we've been told that better health requires more supplements, more exercise, more superfoods, more effort. Yet this study reminds us that sometimes the answer isn't more, it's less. Less constant eating, less inflammation, less metabolic chaos. By practicing structured rest through fasting, we're essentially tuning our internal instruments back into harmony. The body doesn't need to be micromanaged, it needs to be trusted. It knows when to burn fuel and when to store it. It knows how to repair, rebuild, and restore. The problem is that modern living rarely gives it the chance to do so. Intermittent fasting, done correctly and consistently, simply restores that opportunity. When you fast, you're not starving yourself. You're setting your biology free. You're allowing your metabolism to function as it was designed, your immune system to strengthen, and your brain to sharpen. That's not deprivation, that's empowerment at the cellular level. The beauty of this study lies in its universality. These benefits were seen across diverse populations, different diets, backgrounds, and lifestyles, proving that the principle of structured rest is something our biology universally responds to. Whether you live in a busy city or a quiet village, whether you eat plant-based or omnivorous, your body speaks the same ancient language of rhythm and renewal. So the next time you think of fasting, don't imagine hunger or struggle. Imagine regeneration. Imagine your body working quietly but powerfully, recalibrating every cell, every system, every heartbeat. The science is clear. When you give your body time to rest, it doesn't weaken, it awakens. And in that awakening lies the secret to health, vitality, and longevity. The third and perhaps most profound lesson from the world's largest intermittent fasting study is that science alone isn't enough. Data graphs and biomarkers can show us what works on paper, but real transformation happens when science meets self-awareness. This study didn't just teach us how fasting works biologically. It revealed something much deeper about how we relate to our own bodies. Because sustainable fasting, the kind that heals rather than harms, is never about punishment. It's about balance, intuition, and respect for your body's signals. For decades, diet culture has conditioned us to believe that health is about control, controlling calories, controlling cravings, controlling outcomes. But what this groundbreaking study proved is that the healthiest people weren't the ones obsessively counting every bite. They were the ones who listened, the ones who paired scientific guidance with self-compassion. They treated fasting not as a form of deprivation, but as an act of trust. The research showed that participants who approached fasting flexibly, allowing themselves room to adjust, experienced greater long-term success. Those who rigidly pushed themselves, extending fasts beyond comfort or ignoring hunger cues, often reported fatigue, irritability, and burnout. The takeaway? The body doesn't thrive under force. It thrives under cooperation. Sustainable fasting is a partnership, not a power struggle. And that's where self-awareness enters the picture. Fasting teaches you to tune in. It invites you to notice not just hunger, but habits. Are you eating because you're truly hungry or because you're bored? Are you reaching for food to nourish your body or to soothe your emotions? The pause that fasting creates becomes a mirror, reflecting our relationship with food, with time, and with ourselves. This level of mindfulness, supported by scientific understanding, becomes the foundation for lasting health. The study emphasized that fasting is not one size fits all. What works beautifully for one person may not suit another's metabolism, lifestyle, or hormonal balance. Some participants thrived with a 16-8 schedule, fasting for 16 hours and eating within 8, while others found their sweet spot at 14-10 or even 12-12. Key wasn't in perfection, but in personalization. Science provides the map, but self-awareness helps you navigate the terrain. Another remarkable insight was how participants who practice balance, both physically and mentally, were the ones who sustained the habit long-term. They approached fasting with curiosity, not fear. They didn't view it as a rigid command, but as a conversation with their bodies. When life got hectic, they adapted their eating windows without guilt. When stress hit, they allowed flexibility instead of shame. That mindset shift from punishment to partnership transformed intermittent fasting from a temporary health trend into a lifelong rhythm of wellness. The mental and emotional benefits of this balanced approach were undeniable. Participants described feeling empowered, not restricted. They experienced clarity, confidence, and a sense of alignment between their choices and their well-being. They weren't chasing quick results. They were cultivating harmony, and science backed them up. The data showed that people who maintained a positive mindset and flexible structure saw more consistent improvements in metabolic markers. sleep quality, and mental health. This finding carries an essential message. Health is not a battle to be won. It's a relationship to be nurtured. Fasting, at its core, is about restoring trust between you and your body, learning that hunger is not the enemy and fullness is not failure. When you combine evidence-based science with mindful awareness, fasting becomes less about control and more about connection. Balance also means acknowledging that fasting isn't for everyone, and that's okay. The study's researchers emphasize the importance of listening to your body and consulting medical professionals, especially for people with specific health conditions. There's wisdom in knowing your limits, because health isn't about pushing harder, it's about knowing when to pause. Ultimately, this massive global study reminded us of something beautifully simple. Your body already knows what to do. It's not waiting for you to punish it into submission. It's waiting for you to partner with it in rhythm and respect. Science gives us the evidence, but self-awareness gives us the experience. So, as you integrate fasting into your life, do it with grace. Let it be less about perfection and more about presence. Celebrate the small victories, the moments you feel lighter, clearer, more attuned. Recognize that healing happens in cooperation, not control. Because when science and self-awareness walk hand in hand, something extraordinary happens. Fasting stops being a rule and starts becoming a rhythm. A rhythm of balance, trust, and vitality that reminds you the most powerful transformation isn't just in your body. It begins in your awareness. So, what did the world's largest intermittent fasting study truly teach us? It wasn't just a lesson in nutrition or metabolism. It was a revelation about how we live, how we rest, and how deeply our modern habits have drifted from the natural intelligence of the human body. This research reminded us that health is not found in extremes. It doesn't come from starvation, obsession, or rigid control. It comes from balance. It comes from understanding that our bodies are not broken machines to be fixed. They are extraordinary systems that simply need time, rhythm, and respect to do what they were designed to do. For years, the idea of fasting was tangled up with fear of hunger, fear of losing strength, fear of doing something wrong. But this global study pulled fasting out of the shadows of misconception and into the light of science. It showed us that when practiced with awareness and consistency, fasting is not deprivation, it's liberation. It's giving your body the structured rest it has been silently craving. It's the pause that allows your biology to breathe again, and what a beautiful truth that is. Imagine a world where health isn't about endless struggle, where you don't have to wage war against your appetite or drown in diet rules. Imagine a world where you trust your body enough to listen, to eat when it's time, to rest when it's time, to live in tune with your own rhythm. That's the world this study invites us into. A world where science empowers, not restricts. Where healing begins, not by adding more, but by allowing less. That the real power of this discovery isn't just in the lab results, it's in what we choose to do with them. Because knowledge without practice changes nothing. The invitation here is simple yet profound. Start listening. Start noticing. Create space between your meals, between your thoughts, between the constant noise of daily life. Let fasting become not a task, but a teacher. Let it show you the strength of stillness, the intelligence of rest, and the beauty of balance. Your body is not asking for perfection. It's asking for partnership. And when you give it that, when you align science with self-awareness and rhythm with reason, something extraordinary happens. You don't just change your health. You change your relationship with yourself. So, as we step forward from this groundbreaking study, let's carry with us a new definition of wellness, one built not on punishment or pressure, but on harmony. Let's remember that the body's wisdom is timeless, its rhythm ancient, and its resilience astonishing. Fasting isn't the absence of food, it's the presence of understanding. And in that understanding lies the most powerful truth of all. When you honor your body's rhythm, your body honors you right back, with clarity, with energy, with life.